Hi, welcome to Divorcing Japan. Steve here. What if I told you that in Japan, it's possible for your husband or your wife by themselves to go to the city office and get divorce paperwork, fill it in, stamp it, and hand it in and get a divorce granted all on the same day, possibly without you even knowing about it? Scary, isn't it? Well, these kind of things happen all the time, and they've been happening so much. These cases of husbands coming back from work or waking up in the morning and not knowing they're divorced and having their wives leave, take the children and go and live somewhere else. And then when it comes time to contest the divorce, nope, sorry mate, you're already divorced. Well, how does this happen? Well, it's very easy to get divorce paperwork from the city ward office. In fact, a large majority of divorce cases in Japan happen with this piece of paper called the Rikon Todoke. That's the divorce paperwork, and it's in place because it's a relatively hassle-free way of getting divorced. If mutually the husband and wife agree that they're going to get divorced, they go to the city office and they get that paper. They bring it home and they talk about property division. Who's going to keep the house? Who's going to pay who? How are we going to split the money? And about child access, how many times you can see the kids, when, and all that. And that all gets written down on this form. Then you both sign it, write your name and address, and then you both rubber seal stamp it, you hanko it, and then you both take it down to the city office and you can get a divorce. And it's in place to make the divorce process as smooth as possible. You don't need to pay for lawyers, you don't need to pay for anything, and if you're both mutually agreeing that divorce is the only way forwards, then that option is there. And it's highly popular in Japan. In fact, most divorce cases happen that way. But it's also possible, because the wife in the family usually has those rubber seals, for somebody to go and get those papers and fill them out by themselves, to make up the property division, to say that they're going to keep all the money and you're not going to get any, and you're going to get custody of the kids and you're not going to see the kids, you know? So it's very easy for them to fill it out, to make stuff up, and then to sign both the names, hanko both the places, and take it in by themselves. And yes, the city ward office will accept the form from only one person. Well, this has been happening for so long now that they've introduced a piece of paper, a savior, a white flag, a soldier, a samurai, a ninja. They've introduced a piece of paper called the Rikon Fujiri Todoke, and it's the divorce non-acceptance paper. And so basically what you can do if you're worried, if your marriage is on the rocks, you're scared, or your wife has just left you and taken the kids, you need to get down to the city hall as soon as possible, right now. And you need to ask them for the Rikon Fujiri Todoke. And it's a piece of paper they give you, and you fill out your name and your address and your details. You can write down the details of why you're worried that your partner might try and hand in divorce papers by themselves without your consent. And you stamp this and you hand it in. It's free. And what it does is it blocks any paperwork from coming in. And it used to have a 6-month shelf life, but now, once you sign that paperwork, it's good forever, and it can't really be turned over. So once you've signed that paperwork, if your spouse goes to the city hall with the divorce papers that she's filled in by herself and hands them in, they will block it. They will say, sorry, we can't take those papers because there is a Rikon Fujiri Todoke in place. Your spouse has not given permission for us to take these papers. And it's such a saving grace because it prevents you from getting divorced when you don't know about it. It buys you time. If someone is trying to coerce you into signing the papers, or if someone is trying to blindside you, and especially with foreigners married to Japanese people where they might not be able to understand all the kanji that's written on the form, you know, you could have been told that you're going to get to see your kids all the time and the money's going to be split down the middle, but in fact what's written in the kanji on the form is totally different. Once that form's gone in, once the divorce papers have been submitted, that's that. You can't overturn it. So this Rikon Fujiri Todoke is amazing. It blocks that. And it buys you more time, and it also means that if you don't agree to the divorce, then you're going to have to go through a divorce lawyer route and intermediation and all that kind of jazz. But it does buy you the time, and it does save you, because once you're divorced, you have no power at all. You have no custody of your kids, and there's nothing you can do. So this paper really saved me. My friends told me when my wife left with the kids that that was the first thing I had to do. And I went down the city office and I filled it out. And it was simple. I just went into the city ward office and I asked them for the Rikon Fujiri Todoke. I filled it out and that was done. Now, there are a couple of small details that you need to be aware of. One is that they'll check if the divorce papers have been handed in. And if they've already been handed in, that's sad because you're divorced. And that Rikon Fujiri Todoke will not do anything. It's too late. But if the papers have not been submitted yet, from the moment you sign and hand that Rikon Fujiri Todoke in, you're covered, you're saved, the block is in place. Now, there is another small detail. If your spouse has filed the divorce papers at another ward office and they're sending them by mail through the air to your city local ward office and they haven't arrived yet, then there is a chance you could already be divorced. So once you file this paperwork, you need to wait about a week or two and go back again to just double check that nothing has arrived from another ward office. Because if the stamp on the divorce papers is before the stamp on the Rikon Fujiri Todoke date-wise, then the divorce has gone through. So fill out that paperwork, fill out the Rikon Fujiri Todoke at the ward office, and then go back a week or two later and just double check that nothing came in. And they'll say, yep, we didn't receive any divorce papers yet, you are secure. Now, there are cases where once this is in place, that the spouse does go down to the ward office to try to hand in the forged documents that she's filled out by herself. And the city office will do this. We cannot take that paperwork, they'll block it and it won't be submitted. Then they will call you by telephone and say that there's been an attempt made to hand in the paperwork. And they'll also send you a letter to confirm this also, which is very useful. Many people have tried to then sue their spouses for fraud in court. However, it doesn't often go to plan. In many cases, the wife is able to come up with some story that she had no choice. She was under immense emotional pressure and she had to get out of there and she had to do this. And the court will usually turn a blind eye to it and it will be forgotten, sadly. Once you've got this paperwork in place, a divorce will not be able to happen through the traditional Rikon Todoke means. You'll go to divorce mediation with a lawyer involved and you'll mediate your property division and your child visitation in a lawful way under the supervision of the court. And hopefully you can arrange things during the mediation sessions and then you can get divorced mutually and as well as possible. Now, without going into it too much, it is still a tough process and I'm going to do more videos talking about the mediation process because it's very difficult for foreigners to navigate. And just before I finish this video, to say that it is easy to fill out the Rikon Fujiri Todoke, so don't be worried, go down the city hall and ask for the Rikon Fujiri Todoke, fill it out and it's easy. It's also free, which is great. You don't have to pay to do it. But I recommend if your marriage is on the rocks or your wife has recently left with the kids, you get down there as soon as possible and you fill that in. So the divorce rate is rising, and so these cases of people getting divorced without even knowing about it are rising also. If any of this interests you, please subscribe to the channel and like. It's just a short video today, but thank you very much for watching and see you next time. Bye-bye.